I never seem to learn my lesson. The past few Ubisoft games I played were well below my standards, and if I knew any better, I would just stop buying their games. I mean, this is the same company that somehow messed up Tetris.
Once where it wasn't like I'm holding the button to the side. I'm dropping.
This isn't the way you want to play?
No, like there's like right now I'm holding it. You can hear me tapping it. I'll do another.
Why is it running like this?
It's Tetris. Look right there.
Well, shockingly, Far Cry 5 isn't that bad. It's not great, and it has a ton of flaws. If I didn't know better, I'd say Ubisoft was competing with Bethesda for buggiest game. However, unlike Skyrim, Far Cry 5 does enough fun things to hold my interest for the game's duration. In the middle of Hope County, Montana, a sadistic and powerful religious cult has taken complete control of the land, going as far as to take over the local police force and even cut off communications to the outside world. Due to a recorded video being leaked of the cult's actions, the US Marshal Service has been called to arrest their leader, Joseph Seed, and the player finds himself separated from his fellow deputies, who are later found to have been captured by the cult. After being rescued by a member of the resistance force against the cult, the player is explained that he must assassinate Joseph's 3 lieutenants in order to draw him out of hiding, then confront him, and finally free Hope County from the cult's grasp. The story could have easily made the villains one-dimensional and left it at that, but I'm glad that Ubisoft took it a step further. Each character has their own tragic backstory of what led them to join Joseph's cult, and the overall theme of unapologetic zealots with infinite resources and power is pulled off well here.
I'm going to teach you courage. Teach you how to say yes, so you can confront your weaknesses, confront your sins. You will swim across an ocean of pain and emerge free. For only then can you truly begin to atone. So who wants to go first?
If you wanted a modern-day Crusades, then this is about it, and it's pretty cool. That said, the villains themselves and the unique ways that they support their unified cause aren't interesting enough to carry the story, but the game sure as hell tries. It feels like half of the cutscenes are spent staring at someone's ugly mug, while they ramble on and on. I know it's a first-person game, but can we please get a different camera angle? The game even has light character customization, and these cutscenes would be a great opportunity to show that off. But since the entire game is an unyielding first person, that feature feels a little pointless. Some cutscenes are alright because they walk the player through an environment while multiple characters interact with each other.
There problems?
No. A couple of the Peggies scaled the wall, but we got him. Door.
That doesn't look too bad. You'll be all right. Just keep pressure on it. You know, I was gonna retire last year. I was worried I'd get bored.
But the many times that it's a one-on-one monologue just really drags. I swear there are so many of them. And these tragic backstories are really over the top and just straight up ridiculous.
I took my fingers and I put them on that little plastic tube that was taped to her angelic face, and I pinched it shut. And after a little while, her legs began to kick and kick. And then nothing. Stillness. Release. The Lord giveth, and the Lord taketh.
Yes, I get it. You're evil. Let's move on. Ubisoft came close, but the execution misses the mark. These villains are way too in love with the sound of their own voice, and it gets obnoxious very quickly. On top of that, it doesn't help that the setup for the story requires quite a bit of suspension of disbelief. For an entire county to go under radio silence and only have a skeleton crew police force investigate, mainly because of a leaked video, is a pretty weak premise to kick off the story. Worse yet is that the story progression hits the exact same beats 3 times in a row. You piss off one of the lieutenants, you get captured, you escape, you rescue your buddy, and then you're told to get revenge.
We're gonna get them out. And then we are gonna burn this whole fucking place down.
Now, I want you to find that goddamn Joseph Seed, bring him to justice, or put him in the ground.
You find that motherfucker. You find Jacob. And you kill him.
Seriously, each chapter repeats its own pacing nearly verbatim. I can understand if the purpose was to drive home this theme of revenge, but it also goes to show that Ubisoft has no idea how to handle subtlety. If the story's pacing wasn't lazy enough, the setting isn't much better. It's usually awkward whenever a foreign developer strongly uses a setting that the audience is familiar with, and Far Cry 5's parody of American patriotism is no different. Sometimes the jabs are hilarious.
July 4th, 1963. Clutch Nixon, the greatest stuntman in Montana, honored America in the only way God could have imagined. Flying recklessly through a pristine river valley, firing heavy artillery attached to a civilian aircraft. Although he never crashed, Clutch nevertheless suffered an injury to his brow ridge that left him unable to see color. That same year, Clutch accidentally sparked a race riot at the launch party of his first volume of erotic poetry. Ironically, both the stunt and the book are named Old Glory Holes, and neither have been surpassed since that day.
I especially love this character who might as well have been taken out of South Park.
Stupid sumbitch went and lost my campaign truck, Nancy. So named after the greatest first lady to ever serve this fine country, of course. If them Obama-loving libtards find out I can't look after my own... Oh, shit!
For the most part, Ubisoft did an alright job. But then there's the absolutely ridiculous number of underground bunkers in this game. If these were supposed to be converted storm shelters or something, then I could accept that. But these things are huge. I know America loves its doomsday bunkers, but geez, this game makes it seem like they're everywhere. And everyone seems to think it's totally normal. Then there's always this one guy waving an American flag amidst fireworks at the end of a major mission. And it's all done with a completely straight face. I mean, really? Let's tone it down a bit, Ubisoft. I get it. The game takes place in America. This would be like if someone made a game that took place in France, and every character looked like a stereotype, except if it didn't come off as a joke. I don't know, maybe I'm digging too deeply into this. The gameplay is your typical first-person shooter, although it's quite a bit slower and more simplistic than I would like. There's a fun grapple mechanic for the very few times that it's implemented, but otherwise, it's a very bare-bones game. The weapons are especially lackluster in their utility and balance. There is absolutely no difference between the full-size and compact variants of guns, and some weapons, like the AK-47 and double-barrel shotgun, completely overtake all the other guns in their category, which further diminishes any variety and creativity in the combat. Thankfully, all is not lost. Although the artificial intelligence in Far Cry 5 is hardly noteworthy, they do attempt some interesting things. Enemies will rush in to revive their allies, sometimes even using smoke grenades for cover, and they can even flank the player if given the opportunity to do so. Alarms need to be disabled to prevent reinforcements from coming in, and vehicles need to be dealt with appropriately. All of this is complemented by some solid level design, which often utilizes large open buildings with multiple floors, and, rarely, some zip lines for quick one-way traversal. The game's open world is also fairly well done. It's big enough to inspire a grand sense of scale, but not so much as to take forever in order to reach your destination, especially with the right vehicle on hand and thanks to a generous fast travel system. Overall, Far Cry 5 has a pretty solid foundation, but it is an easy game to break. If you wanted to liberate Hope County mainly using an attack helicopter, then there's really not a whole lot stopping you from doing so, which makes the game embarrassingly easy. The level up system is also quick to progress in, so you can find yourself swimming in rocket launcher ammo and other explosives before the halfway point, which completely trivializes any vehicles that may come your way. It's also not that uncommon for a friendly NPC to cause you to lose the mission. Or other embarrassing glitches that should not be occurring for a company as large as Ubisoft. However, when I got down to it, Far Cry 5 managed to be just fun enough. It's a very simple game that does its best not to waste the player's time. Although there is quite a lot of dialogue that's totally full of itself, at least you don't have to manage an overbearing inventory system, and switching out weapons and vehicles is quick and easy. Traveling the countryside is also pretty nice. Hunting and fishing are kind of lame, as is directing your small party of allies, but I'm sure they'll appeal to certain people, and it's rarely mandatory in this game. Best of all, the entire campaign can be played in co-op, after the tutorial is finished, which is always a great feature to have. However, it's important to take all of my praise in perspective. Far Cry 5 does nothing special or unique in the slightest, and for that, I simply cannot recommend it. It falls on average, maybe just above average, but that's about it. It is slower than most first-person shooters, there's very little weapon variety, enemy variety, or customization, and the artificial intelligence, while effective, is still pretty basic. If you're interested in the setting or the story, then you'll likely get a kick out of it, and the ending was great, if only for how unexpected it was. But for most players who are looking for a first-person shooter that does a great job on its own merits, I don't feel like there's a whole lot to look for here. Before I wrap this up, it's worth mentioning the included Far Cry Arcade mode as well. For a game with such simple controls and limited selection, I would figure that traditional versus would be a waste of time. But Far Cry Arcade overcomes this with some unique maps and rule sets. There's a low-gravity explosion fest, a dodgeball match involving shovels, and a host of more traditional setups, all with their own weapon loadouts that help shape the different game's rules. There are also cooperative maps which task the players with taking out an enemy stronghold, as well as platforming challenges, among other things. All of this is powered by the in-game map editor, which seemed to offer near infinite possibilities. I was able to put together a simple obstacle course in no time, but just by looking at the multiplayer and cooperative maps as examples, it's clear to see that the possibilities are nearly endless. I wouldn't be surprised if someone's already put together a Blood Gulch map from Halo or Complex from GoldenEye. In fact, I'd probably find myself playing this more often if I could find a recreation of Chinese Restaurant or the streets from Time Splitters. This all helps with the game's longevity, but as long as the base controls and physics remain so simple, then I can't imagine that it's going to hold most players' attention for very long. Which is a real shame since that map editor is seriously impressive, especially for something that runs on consoles. All in all, Far Cry 5 gets the job done. It's a fun game to play through, and even more so with friends. But if you're looking for something groundbreaking, either solo or online, then you're better off looking elsewhere. After the about 20 hours it took to get through the campaign, as well as some time spent in the online mode, I was simply left with a first-person shooter that, despite an interesting setting, simply didn't do enough to stand out from the crowd.
Ferocity you showed. Intense, frightening. You made me shit my pants a little, but I liked it. Now I can finally spray my magic all over this film. Blood Dragon 3 will be a masterpiece. Seriously, it has to be. I can't go back to working on shit like Far Cry. I'd rather put my balls in a vice and listen to everyone with their fucking opinions about world building and player motivation and believability. I'll kill myself, I swear to fucking God. Oh, and I wasn't kidding before. Closed set, get the fuck out of here.
Thank you for watching my review of Far Cry 5. If you would like to be updated on my future videos, then you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, follow me on Twitter, or check out my page on Critic.